Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of FFS, where we share all our thoughts and questions that keep us up at night or make us giggle during the day. My name's Astha, and I'm coming into you from my living room in a small town near Haryana, India.
Hi, I'm Vishrata and I'm logging in from Houston, Texas, from my bedroom. And let's get all caught up for friendship's sake.
So, Vish, what's been up?
A lot has been up, but I think like a large chunk of my time, because I haven't been in Houston for too long. I've been putting my time into building new connections. So I didn't know anyone when I moved here. So I've been on Bumble BFF. I've tried to get myself on professional networking platforms. Um, but suddenly it feels like I've forgotten how to make friends. Like after 26 years of existence in this world and meeting millions of people and making friends and having friends across the globe, suddenly I'm just like, how did I make these friends? How did I keep these connections going? How did I establish these connections? And how have I nurtured them? So it kind of brought me back to these fundamental questions, and I would love to talk about it today. Like, so maybe tell me what it means to you, Asta. Like, what does the word connection and what does the word communication really mean to you?
Okay, so for me, connection would be both a noun and a verb. As a verb, it it talks to connecting to someone on LinkedIn or adding somebody I met as a friend on Instagram or once upon a time Snapchat. But it also sort of refers to the bond that I share with someone or the rapport that I've built with someone over time or because of certain external factors and situations, whatever that may be. And communication to me is, of course, your verbal, written, and oral communication. Like you send emails, you send messages, etc. But it's also the non-verbal parts, right, which tend to show up a lot more in personal relationships than professional relationships. But anything from, say, acts of service to just gift giving or just anything that conveys to the other person that you're either thinking about them or you're wishing them well, anything on those lines.
Man, it just feels like so relatable when you talk about it, but then it is so hard. And you're right. I think the biggest part about sustained connection is that two-way communication. But but how did we meet and how did we establish these strong connections, right? Like it just feels so, difficult, and it's so hard to
Yeah.
even imagine people I meet, say, on Bumble BFF or on a different platform like that to become a strong connection like that. So how
Yeah.
how do you describe some of your strong connection? What do you think, is the basis of these connections that eventually end up being or feeling like lifetime connections?
Firstly, I don't agree entirely with the word lifetime connections. I think it just puts so much pressure on any two people. But I do have some connections that span a huge chunk of my lifetime. And I think they're all that has started organically,
Mm.
in the sense, when we were kids, being when the teacher made you benchmates, you
Mm.
became friends, or when you as you grow up, you find friends. And for example, you and me, you spoke about how we met, right? Why did we meet? Because both of us got into Northwestern. We were the only two names we could recognize on the entire roster. And we found each other on LinkedIn and we became sort of each other's anchor, right? We were relying on each other to sail through when we got to a new town, a new country altogether where we didn't really know anybody else. Um, so I think for me, my strongest relationships are ones that have stood the test of time. Uh, and when I say stood the test of time, I don't simply mean years or just days, not calendar time, but time as in the different phases of life that we've gone through. I have very close friends who I have known since school, and they've seen me as a teen. They've seen me during my first job. They've seen me when I had to take a gap year and was not in the best place mentally. They've seen me literally through thick and thin. And then there's also you, who's seen me through when I like to say that a lot of my growing up happened when I moved out of my home and moved to the US, where I was entirely on my own, and you were there. So we saw each other grow up there. We saw each other get out of university, get our first jobs. So we saw each other through a lot of chapters. Um, and we stayed, right? We might not always understand what the other person's going through. We might not always resonate with it, but we're still empathetic. So I think for me, my strongest relationships would be those that go through every chapter with you.
I agree. I agree. Those life stages that evolve and
Mhm.
change, and people who,
Yeah.
stick around. But you know what? Like, as much as we talk about how you and I were probably the only two people traveling from India for this program, so we connected. But then,
Hmm.
I mean, there is a possibility that we kind of didn't get along, right? Like, what if
Of
we didn't
course.
get along? Like, it just
Of
feels
course.
like somehow something aligned. Like, it could be core
Yeah.
values, ideals, what friendship meant to us, or even other things beyond the relationship, how we saw life. So, I feel
Yeah.
like some of these things not aligning is what leads to weak connections. Um,
So,
I've seen, I've experienced relationships where you're in that space. So you eventually build some kind of a connection. It could be a colleague, it could be a classmate, and it could be an
yeah.
acquaintance at a different setting. But maybe some things don't align, and that's why it's not a strong relationship, right?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
like think about it? Have you ever like had those kind of relationships?
Absolutely. I don't remember them because clearly they were weak. But um, two things that I would think when I think of a weak relationship or a strong relationship for that matter.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of work that goes into building a relationship. Whether that, if that work feels exhausting, you're not going to want to do it, and hence your participation or your engagement in nurturing that relationship or that connection is going to be much lower, and then it's going to be a weak relationship. Or you're going to work to uh, build on the things that you do align on, and then strengthen the bond. And it then comes down to two things, right? One is, of course, relatability, how much of what I think and how you think aligns, but also acceptability. Somewhere I have to accept that, okay, you and I might not see eye to eye on a certain issue, not not human rights, but something a little less important.
Mhm.
But you and I may have slightly different priorities. You and I, you and I may look at certain things differently, and that's okay. We're
Yeah.
not a mirror image of each other. We're not a spitting image of each other. We're
Mhm.
two different people who get along on certain points and not on certain ones. But the ones that we do get along on are good enough for us to build a strong foundation for a good, long lasting relationship on.
So, like something that makes me think is as much as we build the relationship or start a relationship based on these, core ideals that you could
Hmm.
sort of align on, what does it take to keep the relationship going? Because as you said, there are changing life stages, and it's just not possible for you to create a new bunch of relationships and friendships every 2 years just because your
Yeah,
life's changing. You need
yeah,
some of those people, like you said, could be called your anchors. So
yeah.
even if it's built on alignment, what does it take to sort of nurture these relationships? Because that seems to be something that I am struggling with a little, just to know if I'm doing it right or wrong, especially with so many long distance relationships in my life right now.
Yeah.
You know, you also moved recently. So how have you
Yeah.
been dealing with that?
So if you remember back in Northwestern, we took a subject called social networks, I think.
That
And one of the yeah, it was incredible. So one of the things that we learned, and I think that's the only thing that has really stuck with me from that class, but it was something about the Dunbar's number, which said that a person can only have 150 meaningful connections in their life. You can only sort of actually actively manage 150 connections at any given point in time. I think that that is sort of the answer. Recognizing which relationships and which connections are leaving a positive impact on you and your life across, let's say, a great mentor in the professional field, or somebody who is your ride and die friend, or somebody in your family who, is a great support system for you, somebody from school who can be your think tank. All these different, there are a lot of roles
Mm.
that need to be filled in our lives. And recognizing which person for you is the best fit for each role in your life, and then setting the expectations from that person, communicating them clearly, and then of course also reciprocating those efforts and expectations is what will help you, or what has helped me build certain strong relationships. And believe me, I have a I if you go to my Instagram, you'll see 700, 800 friends, or whatever you want to call it. But I have a very small, it's not entirely small, but a medium size group of people that are extremely important to me, and where I actively make the effort.
Mm.
No relationship is going to work if you don't actively make an effort to keep it alive. Every relationship hits its bumps, especially like romantic relationships, because there's much fewer boundaries there as compared to a professional relationship. But, and then of course, accept that it's a problem, sit down or talk through it, really understand what you, I don't mean to say give up on your boundaries or anything, not at all, because a healthy relationship won't need you to do that. But understand what you want from a person, what you can give that person, make it clear, and reduce the friction.
Yeah, I think that part about like knowing what each relationship means to you and what it, what you're trying to get out of it and what you're trying to
Yeah,
give to it, I think is super
yeah,
important. And one thing that I've been trying to do is sort of understand my first circle, my second circle, and my third circle, right?
yeah,
Like you said, be it in friendships or romantic relationships or even with family. It doesn't have to be your traditional first circle, first cousin, second cousins thing, but more so in
yeah,
terms of what is the impact they have on your lives currently, and how much energy and time are you ready to invest into that relationship. And
yeah,
initially I had a bit of guilt with ranking relationships. It always felt like that's not the right thing to do when you love someone, but I definitely think that has helped me with reducing friction, understanding how to efficiently use my time. As much as
yeah,
we keep talking about relationships should be super organic, it's just not possible to put
no,
effort into something without truly understanding efficiency
yeah,
around it, right? So I think that's like super important too when it comes to knowing how much each relationship means to you and just being self-aware of if you are giving the right time and space for that relationship in your life. So did you have to put in any specific kind of effort after you moved, specifically for long distance relationships, be it whatever kind it is?
absolutely. If I talk about the easier thing to address, or the more obvious thing to address, is all of my professional relationships. When I moved to the US, I of course lost touch with a lot of them.
Right.
It wasn't easy to be a full-time student, to be working, and to sort of network in two countries, given
Yeah.
the different time zones. So after coming back, I had to figure out a way to touch base with all these people and, strike up conversations, understand from them. I also needed them to explain to me what the market looks like. So I knew in my head that yes, these are not connections that I'm going because, oh, this is a great friend and I want to talk life with them. I very obviously wanted to have a professional relationship with them. So I made it a point to touch base with everybody, ask what they're doing for work, how work's been for them. And I literally used to do like one call a day because any more than that, and I didn't have the energy for it. Um, for my friends, it wasn't that much of an effort because they were all at the airport when I came back, and they were really excited to be in the same city again. Um, with with everybody that I left behind when I moved to India, back to India from the US, in all honesty, I lost touch with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
People that I thought I would stay in touch with for
Yeah.
sure, because I interacted with them on a daily basis. I shared so many activities and interests with them. I thought this would definitely work out. And if nothing, I thought at least, when I put up a story or something, they'll comment. And it's sad, but no one did. Like the kind of reactions and the connection that I expected just didn't come. And that's what I mean, right? By expectation setting. So initially, I used to feel like, how is this? Like, as soon as I moved back, it was my birthday in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that I thought would wish me didn't.
Mm.
And I just had to take a step back and be like, oh, so maybe that's not the kind of relationship that is. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But in my head, it was. So for a second, I was like, that's not nice. But then there were others like you that I have actively, voluntarily wanted to stay in touch. And the funny thing is, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I
We
want to know
connected
what's
a lot.
happening with you. Yeah, we started a podcast to stay caught up. So I want to know what's happening with you. It's not something that I have to set a reminder for. There are obviously people,
Mm.
professors, and mentors that I found in the US. I have to make a Google Calendar note saying, please stay touch base. Don't forget to touch base. Because life gets in the way and you forget that these people exist. So it's just been a lot of active effort and understanding that this is how much I can do for this relationship, and this is how much I want to do more in this relationship, but the person doesn't want it, so I have to
Oh,
step
yeah.
back.
Yeah. And I think every relationship takes effort. It's just that
Yeah,
with certain relationships, it doesn't feel like effort, right? Like,
yeah,
um, so yeah, no, now that you mentioned about relationship or friendship being a two-way street, I just wanted to talk about this one friend. I don't know why this came to me now recently after like 5 years. I suddenly started thinking about her. I think I was just, scrolling through my Google photos and happened to see one of our like really old selfies. Um, but this was a friend I met very early on during undergrad, and we connected really well. There's so many things we could talk about, and it was also, I had moved from my hometown to Bangalore, and I was super excited, but I also like did not have friends from Bangalore itself. So this was one of my early friends there. And we connected to a level where I used to go hang out at her house, chill with her mom. It was just really nice. And then suddenly,
yeah,
after a while, we kind of stopped having that many interactions. It just like the relationship, as they say, died a slow death. Like, we would still hang out, still like talk once in a while, but it just became different. And now we don't talk anymore. We're still connected on Instagram. Occasionally, when I see something about, something she's done, something she's achieved, it's maybe her birthday, I feel like texting her, I text her, but the conversation is a two text, three text conversation, right? And
yeah,
I don't know, that's when I feel like maybe the alignment on your interests and hobbies and values are not enough. It just really comes down to if you want to keep it going. And sometimes there
yeah,
are other factors also, right? Especially in college there's a lot of drama, and there are like
Yeah.
there are these other people who kind of want to make you pick sides and things like
Yeah.
that. So you sometimes give in, and sometimes you have to like sort of pick some side, and even
Yeah.
if there's someone you like better, you probably have to go with someone you love more, and those are very two different things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, I just felt like talking about it because it's been coming to me recently for some reason. But so
I
one
think all of us have this one friend, right, that we were super close to
thing,
when we were kids. And now that we've grown up, that friend has a fond, like you have a fondness for them in your heart out of the fact that,
yeah,
they're your friends from when you were a child. But you don't relate with them as much today. You can't have you can't do anything beyond the superficial conversation with them, and I think that's okay. That's what that relationship is. I think for us, this as children, we used to write friends for
for
life.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, and BFFs forever and all of these things. But the truth is that just puts unnecessary pressure on a relationship, and a good relationship stops seeming good.
yeah,
You feel like, oh, but this is not enough. But maybe that is. Maybe that's what this the relationship that you have, or that person that is in question,
yeah,
can only contribute so much to your life, and you can only contribute so much to theirs, and that's fine.
yeah.
That's that. You celebrate the nostalgia of it, you celebrate the good times, and then that's all. And then as you grow, you find you take others into your fold, and you know find other people that make that serve the purpose that you need to be served, and that
I
you
agree.
can reciprocate as well.
Maybe I'm over romanticizing it, but like you said, there's something, nice about just being able to cherish those old times, right? Like
Yeah,
you're not doing it right now. It's not your present. Um, I mean, I'm sure this is true for a lot of people in terms of romantic relationships with their
absolutely.
ex-girlfriends and ex-best friends. I think um it's a different time when you've sort of connected with them at a level where you've dreamt the same dream, or you've dreamt on their behalf.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's beautiful because I feel like, irrespective of how you parted ways, sometimes the conversation just fizzles out, and sometimes it is like you parted ways in bad terms. Whatever it is,
Yeah,
I think when you see them do well, or when you see them do something that they've always wanted to do, it kind of brings back those memories. And it's not just memories about them. They also kind of
hmm,
leave a lasting impact on your life.
hmm,
Um, in subconscious ways. You might just be making tea the same way they make tea, or you might
yeah,
be using certain words that they introduced into your vocabulary. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think relationships having the kind of impact they have nothing to do with the effort you put in to keep it going, to make it a sustainable relationship. Those are very two different things, and I think it's important.
I agree with you on the fact that they're two different things, but I don't think that they don't have anything to do with each other. I just think that a relationship can have an impact on you. There's this quote, I don't know if you've seen it circulating around, it's very old,
Mm,
that every person comes into your life for a reason.
mm,
Every relationship serves a certain purpose, and just because that relationship has served the said purpose in both your lives, and you've sort of moved on, doesn't necessarily mean that friendship is dead. For example, that friend that of yours that we're talking about, I'm sure if you meet her today, you'd still want to catch up with her once in a while. You wouldn't mind getting a cup of coffee or something like that for old time's sake. You might not want to do it every week. But that's what I'm talking. That's what I meant, right? By accepting what the role of a relationship in your life is. This is it, and that's
yeah,
okay. Like every person cannot be your 3 a.m. friend. It took me a really long time to understand that. Every time something major happened in my life, I'd be like, oh, who do I call first? But I have to call her also. But then she'll feel bad. And now I'm like, no, this is the person that I want to call because I want to call that person.
I agree.
And I know that person will call me back, and that's it. And the
Yeah.
other people can know after that, it's fine. And did it the first time I did it, I know, the other unnamed other people might have felt bad. But now our relationship is better for it because they know what to expect from me and what to give me in return.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's not a competition. It's
Absolutely
always
not.
going to come down to what am I feeling at this point, and which is fine. But I think I also think about, especially with these kind of relationships where it's not actively present there, but it's kind of passively present in your life thanks to social media. What do you think about
Yeah,
these relationships? I'm just going to give you a little bit of context because recently, like I think 6 7 months ago, I had this weird sort of, I don't know why, like out of the blue, randomly I was just like looking at my Instagram followers list, and I was like, some of these people, I don't have any active interest in their lives, and I don't think I've even shared a meaningful relationship with them in the past.
yeah,
It's just that, I joined a new college or a new job or something like that, met them, and instantaneously became friends with them
friends.
on Instagram, and they just stayed there, right? They've been
Yeah.
like technically following my life, and I've been following theirs. I don't have any active interest in their life. I don't think they care about what's going on in my life. So I just
Hmm.
did this kind of a Instagram cleanse where I stopped following people. I removed some followers. Um, Maybe some of them are wondering how that randomly happened, but I did that, and I don't know how I felt about that later. Because sometimes I feel like Instagram is also a platform where we share stories about like social issues, or to raise awareness about something, or to raise funds for something, and then those times I'm just like, maybe I should have had these people so that
Yeah.
more eyes on the story, more eyes for whatever the cause is. So how do you look at social media and the role it plays in maintaining or nurturing these relationships?
Hmm. Let me start by telling you about the social media that I like the least,
Hmm.
which I don't think you have to second guess. It's LinkedIn. For the longest period of my life, I was petrified of LinkedIn. I still am. I find that that platform is one that the littlest things are glorified. The littlest, very few people or very few posts that I actually read on LinkedIn seem like a genuine observation, a networking thing, or anything. It, in most cases, just feels like, look, I'm so good at my job. Come hire me, or come work with me, or come work for me, or just something along those lines. And that's always made me uncomfortable. It's always given me a lot of anxiety, made me feel like I'm not doing enough, made me feel like what I was doing was not good enough. Um, and you have been at the forefront of helping me get over that uh, that fear. Coming to, so yeah, for me, I think LinkedIn will always remain this platform where you are not entirely yourself. There is probably 10% of you that is curated and put on there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's about it. LinkedIn isn't on its way to becoming your best friend at all, at least not mine. As for Instagram, Facebook is long dead. I don't think I use it for anything except looking up people's birthdays, which also I have stopped doing because
Oh,
people post on
that's
Instagram.
sweet.
But something that Instagram still widely used, like you said, there's a bunch of people. I don't even see their posts because the algorithm knows I don't see them, so it doesn't show it to me. But they're there. Um, Sometimes it leads to, again, a dissatisfaction with my life if I see everyone's traveling or everyone's doing like amazing things at work and I'm not. So then it could lead to dissatisfaction. Sometimes it could lead to discovery. I see a lot of friends going to a particular place, and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. I should look it up, or I should save it. For a select few, it's my way of showing them love when I put up a post or a story on their birthday. It's a way of sharing snippets of my life with them. But more than anything else, honestly, today Instagram is just an entertainment platform.
Mm-hmm.
I am more often than not looking at reels of people I absolutely don't know. I'm barely looking at my friends' content. What content? Because you and I are not posting that much.
Yeah.
To spend the amount of time to entertain me for the amount of time that I spend on Instagram, you're not posting enough.
Well, you are
So,
definitely not posting,
yeah.
but
So, um, very little. The only kind of engagement that I have with friends when I share like memes or
mm,
posts that I find relevant. But otherwise, Instagram isn't really a friend platform anymore.
so as much as I see that, Instagram does not have a lot of content from people we follow or like actual people, but I definitely think it helps me in two ways, right? One, especially with some of these long distance relationships or any
Hmm.
relationship where I'm not meeting those people regularly, but they've been my close friends. It's just that
Yeah,
they're not in that first circle where I'm actively putting in effort
yeah,
into dating them every day and they don't know what's
yeah,
going on in my life apart from like really big events where I call them for. And of course, if I'm
yeah,
around, if we're in the same city, we're going to meet. But so with these relationships, I think it really helps to be able to just send that meme or reel or something that I see that reminds me of them. And I just feel so nice when they send me something like that, right? I actually came
yeah.
across this word recently, which is like the opposite of triggers, and it's called glimmers.
Glimmers.
And I
Hmm.
feel like I get that glimmer when especially someone you don't talk to every day remembers something about you, something you would like, and
Hmm.
sends it to you. And I think that's a beautiful way for me to be able to stay in touch. And one other way that Instagram really helps me is when I create or build or in the process of developing or nurturing a new relationship, right?
Hmm.
Because I've, like I mentioned, I was on Bumble BFF a lot after I moved to Houston, and I was starting to build these relationships because we connected on Instagram first. I was
Hmm.
able to send memes. There was like, there's some things to do in Houston or events or something like that.
Yeah,
Well, like you said, I know about it because I'm on Instagram, and then I get to share
yeah,
it with this person, and then we end up going for it. Even if we don't
yeah,
go, we talk about it, right? So I
yeah,
think these two ways, Instagram has really helped me build and nurture relationships. Of course, it's different for that first circle because I'm texting them, using other
yeah.
apps,
I
calling,
think
but yeah.
what I'm sort of taking away from what you said about how you use Instagram is that it's an enabler to doing or taking an action in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that is like a superficial, it's like a hygiene level connect.
Mm.
Like that's like your level one. After that, you can sort of take all the all the things that you do for your other strong relationships that exist, like text them, call them, etc. Instagram is like that first step of the ladder. It's like that hygiene thing that you have to do in order to, eventually do something in the physical world together, take an action, because every relationship needs some sort of active engagement, right? It
Yeah.
can't simply be sending memes or whatever. If you want to nurture a relationship, again, you could just have a meme sharing relationship, and that's great. That was serving a completely different purpose in your life. Good for you. But for anything that you want to build further, I think Instagram is a great enabler. I agree with you on that. Um, I also um, one thing that has also happened because of social media like Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., is that the strength of the word friends
Mm.
has completely gone away. more often than not, I find myself in a conversation saying something like, "Oh, so this friend of mine, he's not really a friend, but like someone I
Yeah,
know."
friendish.
Yeah, friendish. I don't end up using words like a colleague or
Mm.
acquaintance because somewhere I'm like, oh, how can I call this person just an acquaintance? That's so cold. But it's not. That's just who the person is. An acquaintance, a colleague, a mentor, a classmate. Like that person, just because he's in your class, does not become your acquaintance. He
Yeah.
could simply be a classmate. So these different names or terminology for people that we know, the connections that we have, is something that I really want to become more fluent in because um, it's diluting the strength of the word friend.
Yeah, and I think it actually, like, once you start actually incorporating these words into your vocabulary, it serves two purposes, right? One, it's clear expectation setting. They're
Yeah,
aware who they are, and for you, it's self-awareness to be able to know, okay, this person's a classmate and this person's a friend. So obviously my
yeah,
time and energy will be spent on them accordingly. Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely agree with that. I think I should work on that. Definitely. Yeah. Um,
That reminds me when you're talking about these different friendships, what do you think of relationships within the family? That's just, I mean, it's not, it's something that God decided for us or our parents decided for us. But as adults with our own thoughts on things, what do you think about building, nurturing, and maintaining relationships within the family?
well, I think at some level, every relationship was pre-decided. Because I don't know, I was just thinking about this like a couple of days ago, and I was like, there's no way you, me, or Jen, or we would have met if we didn't go to this program. We're
Yeah.
all from different cities, very different walks of life. So I think definitely at some level things are pre-decided, and you're definitely choosing, picking and choosing within a certain context. But somebody put you there. But
Yeah.
yeah, with family, I think one thing that I've always thought about is with friends or other relationships, there's always more leeway to distance yourself when needed. It's not easy in any relationship, but it's more it's even more
Acceptable.
harder with it's more acceptable and
Yeah.
personally also easier. But with family it's hard, and that's essentially why having boundaries is very, very, very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think and of course, just because you were born into a family or you were born with people in the family, it doesn't mean you have to, bear with anything also, right? So you draw your boundaries. Of course, the good thing about family is they will stick around more than anybody else because that is our social setting. That's how our society has been built and structured. But that doesn't
Yeah.
mean you let people cross your boundaries. So I think that's super important.
Yeah.
And that also has nothing to do with if you love them or not. I love my
Hmm.
parents. I'm sure they love me. But there are
Yeah.
times when I need a break from them, they need a break from me. And it's important
Yeah.
to take those breaks to keep the relationship going.
Yep.
So,
Agree.
100% with family, I think need to be more aware because it's just everything is so intertwined. Um,
Yep.
Boundaries are important, but how do you keep in touch with family? Because yes, probably with your parents you talk a lot.
Yeah.
There's more transactional stuff, so you end up talking, and you inadvertently stay in touch. But with other people in your family, your grandparents, your uncles, aunts, that is something that's that requires effort. How do you manage that?
Hmm. Um, Good question. Tricky question.
I know.
Uh, I think within the family, As an adult, at least my philosophy is really simple,
Mm,
and it's the same as I have for my friends. Uh, I will always aim maintain a cordial relationship. I don't have to be best friends with you, but I don't have to be mean to you either.
mm,
Um, I will respect the fact that we're family. I will maintain a cordial relationship with you, but I will only put in effort where I see that relationship meaningfully impacting my life, and if I can make a meaningful impact in their lives. Um, as you grow older and move away from home, and just life gets in the way, um, you don't. I mean, you don't have the time to engage with every single person. I will meet my extended family on festivals, on big occasions, great. But that does not mean that I will remember to call them every day or
mm.
anything like that. For me, my closest friends, who are my chosen family, on a day to day basis are definitely more important than a certain person who is my family member by relation,
Yeah.
but is not necessarily that close to me. And like you said, boundaries, extremely important. Just the way I will not go to work and share uh, random information about my personal life, I will also not be doing that in in a certain family. I think after a certain age, you choose your circle. You choose the people who are going to be closest to you, who are going to know certain aspects of your life. And I don't think that's being selfish at all.
Oh, of
It's
course.
simply
Yeah.
being selective in who you sort of invest your time and energy in. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
as you just spoke about meeting extended family and events and stuff, that just reminded me that is something I truly miss. Um,
Yeah.
this came up in a conversation with my cousin yesterday, actually. We were talking about how, like when we talk about weddings these days, we're all like the younger generation, we get annoyed with how our parents want to invite like the entire family. They want to invite so many people that we don't personally know. But now that I
Yeah.
think about it, as a kid, I've been to so many weddings where I didn't know the bride and the groom. But it was just
Yeah.
an opportunity for me to like interact with family,
Yeah.
family friends. Just I don't know who they are. I'm just chilling, meeting other kids my age. It was just, I guess, especially in the Indian society, it is a very communal event. Um,
Yeah.
and that is something I miss. And I've never thought about it from that lens. And now that I live in the US and I don't get the opportunity to do it, it makes me wonder
Yeah.
maybe that's why it was, framed like that. Interesting thought.
Yeah.
I think,
I actually,
go ahead.
I mean, since this is such a relevant thing because I just got married, you were there, you know. Um, and again, my parents are that way super chill, so they have a very shared similar philosophy about relations like I do.
Mm,
Guess I've learned from them. But there were a bunch of people that they invited that I'm not close to at all. But when I saw those people at the wedding and I saw them dancing and enjoying and participating, what I realized is that yes, this is a big event in my life, but it's also a big event in my parents' life.
mm,
And understanding that their connections are there to be happy and celebrate with them, not with
yeah.
me,
Yeah.
was so important. Uh, and I think I realized it in time. But um, in general, you and I can be connected, and then you are connected to 100 other people. I'm connected to 100 other people.
Mm,
We live in a society, there is a web of connections and friendships and relationships. And I impact you in one way, but there are three other friends of yours that impact you in a different way, and somewhere it's all connected
yeah.
because you're the central point. So it's not necessarily always about um, it's not always an individualistic thing, right? There is a certain communal angle to it, and I think that sort of makes sense in a lot of different ways. The communal angle, in the sense when you move life phases, like we've discussed, You want to connect with more people in that life phase. You want to develop a new, like you find one friend who's in the same life phase, and then that friend will connect you to three other people.
Mhm.
And that's how you build new relationships. It is a snowball effect
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And that it's it's important.
Yeah.
That's
Now that
all.
you brought it up, I just want to talk about this one thing, and I know like it's way past my bedtime, but who am I kidding? Also, it's just that how do you feel about mixing friend groups? I think this is one thing that
Oof.
um I've talked about with a lot of my friends. For some reason, I don't know why we've never really chatted about it. And you know this, right? I mixed all my friend groups. All my friends know all my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they don't fully get along with some of them, but everybody knows of everybody
Yeah.
else, and they have full liberty to go become friends with them. And a lot of my friends from high school are friends with are friends with my friends from undergrad and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right? So how do you feel about it? Because some people are completely against it.
Okay. Fair disclosure, there was a time that I was against it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for reasons that will be discussed another time. But there was a time. But as I've grown older
Mm,
and got some sense knocked into my head, by life, not by a person, I realized that it's simply a matter of if you feel like two people will get along well, what's the harm?
yeah.
More the merrier, I guess. And but at the same time, there are times it's also a very subjective thing. There are times that I want to spend time with one friend and one friend only because I need that
Yeah.
I need to activate that connection and to spend time with her to feel rejuvenated, etc. And then there are times that I'm like, oh, let's take everybody out. Let's bring everybody together and it can be a fun evening. And then I mean everybody doesn't always connect.
Mm,
Maybe some people do, maybe some people don't.
yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But again comes down to what I spoke about before, which was knowing where somebody stands in my life and where I stand in their life.
Mm,
By having this sort of clarity, it takes away any kind of insecurities, any kind of hesitations that you would have to people forging relations between themselves. It took me some time and some experiences to get here, but I'm
yeah.
here.
I think it also depends on the people, right? Like I feel like some of
Yeah,
my friends don't want to do that.
yeah,
One maybe because they know these are two different kinds of people and they won't get along. But it's also sometimes because they're a little insecure about will they become best friends and
yeah.
they won't be in the equation at all. But I guess if you know these two people and you know what they mean to you and you mean to them, I think it shouldn't matter too much.
And fair warning, honestly,
Mm,
from personal experience, that can happen.
yeah.
That absolutely can happen.
Yeah.
Two people could connect better than
Mhm.
you connect with them. But the thing to note is that either of these people could have found this connection somewhere else.
Mhm.
It's just that it's happening through you and through somebody you know is a different situation. And very often we're very scared of how relationships will evolve. No two people, no relationship can remain the same throughout. There
Mm.
will be changes in you as a person that will affect the relationship. That, like I said, it's a web. So you might meet other people that will change who you are or what you need from certain people in life or what you have to give to certain people in life, and that will impact your other relationships. And this most often happens in romantic relationships when you either find a partner that then becomes your everything and you tend to put your friends aside, or when your friends are overpowering and your romantic relationship can't
Yeah.
foster. It even happens when you have a manager that's too demanding, and
Yeah.
that sort of puts all your other relationships on a back burner. um, but I think it's time we realize that there are a lot of people in the world. There's a lot we have to do. A lot of people we are still yet to meet, and embrace the change. Be okay with it uh, while you're
I
at it.
mean,
I think that's really
I'm
important.
so glad you said that, and it kind of opened some. It was the mind blowing yarn about like just because they met through you doesn't mean
Yeah,
like they could have, they wouldn't have met any other way, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
true.
Also, even some other person, who
It
knows?
feels like such a obvious thing, but I've never thought about it from that lens before. But thanks for saying that. Yeah, that's
That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this
I
podcast.
know, I know. Just like one final thing, I know I've already said this, but what what do you think people like in your life, your connections, your friends, um, what do you think if they understood better, would it help your relationships with them in general? It can be something personal to you and how you view relationships, or in general about how you just your general opinion on having a
Okay, let me give you a story. Parting story.
relationship.
I very recently, this is very recent in my life. I had a friend, very, very close to me, thick as uh, thick as a sister. Okay, we like you described, we would go to each other's houses. Our parents knew each other, etc. Everything.
Yeah.
Both of us hit a crucial and difficult spot in our lives at the same time. So I was suddenly my relationship, the parents got involved in my relationship and they wanted to do the engagement and blah, blah, blah. I was to move to the US and all of that sort of, it went from first gear to fifth gear in like three
Mm,
days. And she was struggling to convince her parents to accept her relationship. And that was getting really messy.
mm,
And at that time, we had a huge fight. So much so that that led us to not talk for a lot of years.
mm,
Years, not days, not months, years. Because she felt that I wasn't there for her, and I felt that I she wasn't there for me, or that she wasn't like she expected me somewhere to be there for her in a way that I just couldn't.
yeah.
I if she would have something I told her was if you had just texted me and said I need to talk, I would have made time.
Mm-hmm.
But for me to just instinctively know that you need XYZ from me is not possible because I don't have the mental bandwidth for it. And we had so basically a whole lot of miscommunication happened, right? And we really tried to communicate and try to sort things out stupidly over text message and voice notes, but we tried. And of course, that led to nothing, just more fights. And eventually, sometime around last year, when we were both about to get married, um, I got a message from her. I woke up, I saw the message, and I was like, oh my God, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was this little hope in my heart that, oh, she's reached out.
Yeah.
And the only thing she called me and said is, what happened between us those years ago is happening to me now with another friend, but the roles have reversed.
Mm.
So I understand now
Yeah.
what you were trying to say. And it's not that I was right, or I'm not trying to say that you are right or I was right. I just understand.
Mm.
And at that moment, my reply to her was, I don't even remember what we fought about. And that's, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just really happy
Yeah.
that we can be friends again. And it's not that our relationship has gone back to what it used to be or anything, but I love her very dearly.
Yeah.
And I just wish more people, including myself, this is not a universal understanding someone has. It's a very situation to situation based understanding. I wish we understood each other's situation or each other's lives, or we at least attempted to understand each other's lives a little bit better
Mm.
and sort of give each other that space
Yeah.
instead of, and understand that not everything is about not everything is personal. If you're not reaching out to me or you're not talking to me, it's not because you're talking to someone else and you don't want to talk to me anymore or any of those things. It's probably you're just busy.
Yeah.
You're just not in a good place. So I had started reaching out instinctively. I think I've done that with you a few times when I'm like, hey, I know you're busy, but are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
is everything good? Anything you want to tell me or I should know? I think just giving each other the space and understanding where the other person's coming from, especially in tough situations, would
Yeah.
make it a lot easier to manage our relationships.
Yeah.
And the same goes for work. My biggest struggle with work has been expectation setting, what somebody expects of me and what I can deliver. And, being one of my biggest challenges has been, especially while getting married, has been trying to convey to the other person that yes, my marriage is important to me, but that doesn't mean my job is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that because I'm getting married, I'm not paying attention to my job, or I don't want my job, or I don't care about my job.
Yeah.
That's not it. And I mean, you know how that's gone down. So,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
expectation setting is a core skill, right, in whatever
yeah,
kind of relationship. But one other thing that you spoke about is, empathy itself and trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. One
mm,
easy thing that I've learned to do is I'm someone who, whenever something goes wrong in my life, I
yeah,
want to talk to people. I get energy out of those conversations.
yeah,
Then I have a clear head and I want to like think about how to solve it. But
yeah,
more often than not, people are also busy. So something that
yeah,
I started cultivating as a habit is checking with them if they're okay and are in the space to listen to me, right?
yeah, absolutely.
More often than not, I feel like if they are your best friends, they're going to say yes.
Yeah,
Even if they're going through something. There
yeah,
have been times when I'm in the middle of a breakdown, but if someone else reaches out, I'm like, yes, let's figure this out.
yeah,
Sometimes it's just like maybe solving somebody else's problems are easier than dealing with your own. Um, but I think just checking in on them, because there are times that people have done that with me or have not done that with me, and that had an
yeah,
impact on me, right? I
yeah,
I have struggled to let them know that I don't have the bandwidth for it right now. And there are also times when people have asked me, and I felt so good that I was able to tell them that, yeah, thanks for checking. Maybe
checking
we'll
in.
connect a different day, or I'm more than happy to talk to you right now. Yeah, I think
Yep.
that definitely would be my parting thought, and I think that is something that has most definitely changed um, the way I
And
can.
I just want to reiterate that this is so much more important in relationships with stronger boundaries. If it's at work, I think if people at work just were a little more empathetic towards each other and had that team spirit that okay, if you need something, I will back you up. It would just make our working life so much easier, so much more satisfactory, so much more. I think I would be a lot more motivated if my team was a safe space to say, and by safe space, I don't mean I want to go unload all of my mental health issues, but I just want to be able to say, hey, I'm having a really crappy day today. And would it be like, I'm still going to do my work? It's not that I'm not going to do my work. Just don't unnecessarily put things on me. Don't take me to meetings where I'm not needed.
Mhm.
Just those kind of things, or I'm say going and checking in on someone and that person's having a tough day. I'll be like, okay, I'll adjust. I'll figure out how to
Yeah,
make this work for you. And automatically, the relationship with that person is going to be so much stronger.
I agree. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I hope that we've said some stuff that'll help someone who's also confused and lost about this, like we are.
Yep.
And of course, nothing we say here is definitive. It's just things that we believe, think, or have experienced.
Yeah, that
And
things that have worked for us or not worked for us.
yeah, and maybe they'll change 6 months down the line. Who
I,
knows?
I, oh, by the way, as I was drinking tea, have I showed you this mug?
What
It says
nap
nap
time is
time
mine.
is my happy hour. Bought it recently. It just and there's a like a
Exactly.
sleeping panda,
Yeah,
dark circle.
I
So
really want.
my spirit animal.